Yes, we do. We do. So again, welcome to everyone. For our fourth speaker in our series, we have 5 of these events. So we're wrapping up, but we're really excited about what Melanie Romo is going to be presenting this evening. Each of the different speakers has been doing something quite unique, and her topic is something of great interest to all of us. So Melanie, I will let you say whatever you would like to about yourself and your background, and we'll hand it off to you now.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me here to talk to you about sleep, which is a very important aspect of all of our lives, and it affects our functioning and our moods and our relationships. It's a very important topic, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm an adult psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I've been practicing since 2005. I've primarily worked in a community mental health setting with patients who range from severely mentally ill to just general mental health. So if you have any specific questions about my background, I'm happy to share that with you. I'm not used to talking about myself very much, so I'll move on to the presentation. So counting sheep, why can't I sleep? And when I started this presentation, I looked into where this idea of counting sheep for sleep came from. There are a lot of different stories out there, but the one that was the most common was that it was connected to medieval Britain, when the shepherds who shared communal land for their sheep, they were required to count all their sheep at night before they went to bed. So that's the story that I found that was most relevant to what we're talking about today. And I think that most of us are familiar with that idea, you know, count sheep if you can't sleep. And some of us have probably tried it. I know I have. It works for some people and it doesn't for others. And Oxford University put this to the test. They took, a group of people who were counting sheep, and then they took a group of people where they used guided imagery to help them fall asleep. And they found that the guided imagery group fell asleep much quicker than the folks counting. So it might just be that counting is just too taxing on the brain to fall asleep at night. That might be one of the conclusions to draw from that. So that is something kind of neat to consider. Now, you're probably going to be hearing more about sleep as a pillar of health in the upcoming months and years, because in 2022, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, I don't know if you can still see me. Can you still see me? Okay.
We can see you, but we can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't?
No, so you need to reshare your screen.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. And let me escape. That usually works. I'll go to Zoom.
Yeah, we saw it and then it disappeared.
It's probably because I have 2 screens open. Let me take that out. Can you see that part of the screen?
Yes, there it comes.
Okay,
yeah.
So now let me go to slideshow.
Probably want to go from beginning. There you go. There we go.
Okay, there we go. So we're talking about how sleep in 2022, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine declared sleep as one of the 3rd pillars of health alongside nutrition and exercise. So their campaign is called Sleep is Good Medicine. So you're probably going to be seeing that in social media. You're probably going to be seeing that in pamphlets when you go to your doctor's office. Essentially, it's to educate the public and providers that sleep is good medicine. It's protective against disease, and it helps with, disease prevention. Okay. The objectives for this presentation are to learn something new, either something that can help yourselves or something that can help other people. Learn about the factors that are affecting sleep, because when we know what affects our sleep, it's easier to manipulate those factors to improve it. And that goes along the lines with learning, you know, sleep methods that can help with our sleep. I promise you, this is only one of two kind of busy neurobiological screens that I'm going to present today. This is a circadian rhythm. Circadian comes from the Latin circa diem, which means around the day. And it just refers to how our body undergoes different cycles throughout the day internally. There are many. The one that we're going to focus on today is the circadian rhythm sleep cycle. The main thing I want you to take away from this slide is the neurobiology of how sleep is activated at night. So when the sun starts to go down, this change in light is detected by our eyes, and it sends a chemical reaction through photoreceptors in our eyes to the brain, which sends a message to, if you want to get fancy, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is kind of the clock in our brain that releases melatonin. Okay, so the sun starts to go down, chemical reaction through our eyes, the brain releases melatonin. That's the only thing I need you to take away from this slide. And it's going to be important later when we talk about sleep hygiene. Any questions about that? So once we fall asleep, what happens? Our brain is very active at night, even though we might be sleeping. And we have slow waves and fast waves. The slow waves are at the bottom, that's non-REM sleep, and the fast waves are at the top. And they call it paradoxical sleep because during REM sleep, which is the little yellow peaks, during REM sleep, our brain is really active as if we were alert and awake during the day. So it's kind of paradoxical because we're asleep, but our brain is very, very active. Babies and young children usually spend more time in the REM sleep. And as we get older, we spend less time in the REM sleep, which might account for why we wake up more frequently as we age over time. Okay. So sleep disorders are pretty prevalent. About 1 in 3 people get less than 7 hours of sleep at night. Sleep difficulties are more common with women, people of lower economic status, with lower education, and also in urban areas. It's more prevalent. Okay. So how much sleep do we need? Do we need 8? Do we need 10? Do we need less as we age? The latest data suggests that adults need 7 hours of sleep at night to be protective against disease. Okay. They say that getting less than 7 hours of sleep a night can increase your risk for heart disease, diabetes, obesity, mental health disorders, and just overall decreased, enjoyment in life. Okay. Sleep disorders. There are many sleep disorders, and it goes beyond the scope of this presentation to go over all of them. Plus, you guys need to get to sleep. So I'm just going to go over, the main ones, and they're going to be categorized into sections. The one sleep disorder that we're going to speak about the most is insomnia, because that's the most common sleep disorder. So I'm going to go through some sleep disorders really quickly. We're going to spend most of our time on insomnia, and then after that, we're going to talk about methods to help manage that. Okay. So the first type of sleep disorders are categorized under the breathing-related sleep disorders. This includes sleep apnea, either obstructive, which means there's something blocking the airway, or central, which means it's in the central nervous system where the brain doesn't send the signals to the breathing muscles to breathe. There's a lot of causes for central sleep apnea, and it's the reason why a lot of people have opiate overdoses, and they die from that. Snoring and groaning are usually not affecting the person who's snoring and groaning, as you can see in this picture right here. This guy next to her, he's sound asleep. He's probably snoring and groaning, but she can't sleep. She's having a hard time. So those are the breathing related ones. The next category are the movement related sleep disorders. This can include restless leg syndrome, which is a condition where when people lay down to sleep at night. They have burning sensation in their legs or pain. They have a lot of jerking movements in their legs, and they have a hard time falling asleep. Leg cramps are pretty common. Bruxism, which is grinding of the teeth and the jaws. Sleep starts. I'm sure about everybody has had a sleep start at one point in their life. They just didn't know that it was called sleep starts. That's when you're falling asleep and you jerk because you have the sensation that you're falling from a building or you're falling from something and you try to catch yourself. Those are called sleep starts. More common when people are under stress, drink a lot of caffeine. The third type is under the circadian rhythm related. Okay, so that's when the sleep cycle is disrupted. The daily cycle is disrupted, and it can occur with jet lag, cross time zones, you're flying across time zones, shift work. If you work at night and then you try to flip-flop with your family, you know, doing daily activities like normal, that can also affect your circadian, your rhythm during the day, 24-hour cycle. The fourth type are parasomnias. Parasomnias are things that occur that are unwanted, either when we're falling asleep or during sleep or when we're waking up. Bedwetting, nightmares, waking up in the middle of the night to eat. Also exploding head syndrome, which is some people have, they abruptly wake up because they hear a loud sound. It sounds like a gunshot or an explosion or the clashing of cymbals, and it's in their mind. It wakes them up. So that brings us to insomnia, which is the main sleep disorder we're going to talk about tonight. It's the most common. In sleep disorder, 35% of adults complain about it. It's more prevalent in women, persons under stress, and persons with behavioral health conditions, and as we age. So insomnia is very, very, very common. So I'm not going to read these questions, but I'm going to allow you some time to just look at them, because since it's such a common disorder, many of us either have it now or have experienced it at some point in our lives, or maybe later on we might have it and we don't, at least we'll know what it is, okay? So if you've answered yes to most of these questions, the chances are you have had insomnia or it is insomnia that you're experiencing. And I'll go through the criteria right now individually. This is just kind of a self-reflection right now. So what is insomnia? It includes difficulty falling asleep, okay, and or maintaining sleep. So this little girl here, she's being very proactive. She's going to bed early to get her 7 hours of sleep, but there she is at 2 o'clock in the morning, bright-eyed, and she's awake. She can't fall back to sleep. She can't maintain her sleep. So it includes either difficulties falling asleep and or maintaining a sleep. It's in the absence of the inability to sleep. So that means these people, they have the adequate amount of time to sleep. They have a very good, comfortable environment where it's dark, it's quiet. All of the criteria needed to have a good night's sleep is there. It's just they can't stay asleep or they can't fall asleep. It usually occurs about 3 nights a week, and it lasts a minimum of 3 months. So anything above 3 months would be chronic insomnia. Anything lasting less than 3 months would be acute insomnia. Okay? And it causes significant distress. It affects daily life, energy, relationships, functioning, and we'll go into that into the next slide. Okay. So obviously, when you can't sleep, you're tired, your motivation's low, you feel tired during the day. It'll affect your focus and your concentration. It might affect your performance at work or at school. Affects your mood. I know I'm less patient, less tolerant when I'm really tired, you know, can increase irritability and anger. It can also increase mistakes, accidents, and it really causes a lot of frustration and distress. It affects relationships, just daily functioning overall. There are many causes of insomnia. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through the main ones. One is stress. There's no shortage of stress these days. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So any life event that, is stressful. Other sleep disorders like restless legs can make it hard for people to fall asleep. Medical conditions, there are many, but I chose this one right here. This lady, she's recovering from a hot flash and her husband is very cold, wants to close the window. So hot flashes, menopause, frequent urination. A lot of women have cytosystole, which is a fallen bladder, and they have to wake up frequently to use the bathroom. That can be very disruptive to sleep. Cytosol, not cytosystole, cytosol. Mental disorders, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder. If you'd like to go into the specifics of those, I'm happy to do so. It's just a general association. And sometimes we see people come in for sleep, but it ends up they have other underlying issues, okay? Of course, medications, sometimes prescribed medications, over-the-counter allergy and cold medicine sometimes have pseudoephedrine in it, which can interfere with sleep. Some of the migraine medications have caffeine. Of course, coffee, chocolate, soda, nicotine, alcohol. Alcohol is interesting because a lot of people will tell me, well, alcohol helps me fall asleep. And it is a sedative. It might help you fall asleep pretty quickly, but alcohol decreases our time in REM sleep. So that means it might make us not stay asleep through the night, or it'll decrease our quality of sleep during the night, making us tired the next day, okay? Other causes can be environmental factors. There are many. The main ones are temperature. If it's too hot in the room, they really suggest having a colder room and using blankets, cozy blankets to keep you warm instead of cranking up the heater. Also light, if it's too light in the room, you really want to make sure it's dark. Also noises can be detrimental to sleep. Habits and lifestyle. I read an article about how, I know males and females play video games, but it was an article about how males are really being affected. Their health is really being affected by staying up late, sacrificing sleep to stay up to play video games. So that's a problem. Again, shift work, folks who work at night and then try to readjust to engaging in daily lifestyle with family, friends. Watching TV, being exposed to bright lights. This can include, tablets, TV, phones, computers. And it all goes back to that, one of the first slides that I showed with the reaction through the eyes to the brain. Anything with bright light can really impede that process, impede the process of the production and release of melatonin. So really at night, you want to decrease your exposure to bright light or be mindful of it. I thought this was funny. I just wanted to add this in there, just make sure you're awake. It was a cute little cartoon. So now we're going to go into treatment. And it really depends on what's causing the insomnia. So if it's a medical condition causing the insomnia, that will generally be treated. But it's really multifactorial, and it's really geared towards the patient. So it could include therapy, going over sleep hygiene, which helps the patient develop specific habits and routines during the day and night that will help them promote sleep and fall asleep easier. And there's also medication. Generally, a combination of things is helpful for most people. However, the first line treatment, according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is what CBTI is referring to. I'm not going to go into the specifics of CBT, but essentially the basic idea of CBT is that an individual will work with the therapist to identify thoughts that influence their behaviors, and then try to change those thoughts to improve behaviors that are conducive to sleep. Okay. There are many different types of CBT therapy for insomnia. Some of the most common ones are stimulus control, which is generally used for folks who toss and turn and sleep and they're not able to sleep. It really focuses on getting someone to use their bed only for sleep, not for eating, not for watching TV, not for reading, not for working, only for sleep and sex. Those are the only things. Relaxation training is used to teach someone how to consciously relax their muscles through breathing, muscle relaxation, that type of thing. Cognitive control in psychotherapy is more geared towards helping someone identify the worries, the negative thoughts that they have that keep them up at night. One of the techniques that they use under this type of treatment is to encourage someone to set aside time every day to worry. And this was actually reinforced at a conference that I went to by one of the psychiatrists. He recommends that to his patients. Set aside time every day to worry. It can be when you're driving home. It can be when you're cooking dinner. It can be any time, but that's the only time you can worry. And I'll go into that a little bit more. And you know, your faith community, I'm sure maybe that could be tied into prayer, journaling, meditation. There's a lot of creative ways to work through that, but it's very helpful. That way people can feel released of the need to worry at night. They know that that's the only time they can worry, is that designated time, okay? And of course, sleep hygiene. That's what we're going to be focusing on with the rest of this presentation. Any questions so far? So sleep hygiene, I really, you know, when I talk to my patients about sleep hygiene, I really try to get them to recognize that sleep is a part of a 24-hour rhythm. So the things that we do during the day are equally as important as the things that we do before bedtime to go to sleep. Okay. So the first few recommendations are things that we can do during the day or be mindful of during the day. Okay. So the first thing is to get adequate sunlight and be active. Stay as active as you can during the day. This will put what I like to call puts money in your sleep bank at night. The more active you are during the day, the more sleep and prone you are to sleep at night. Back to that whole routine and rhythm and sleep cycle, you really want to try to get up and go to bed at the same time every day. Okay. Even holidays, weekends, try your best. That's what we suggest. Don't take naps. People don't like to hear that. I have patients telling me, well, I can't sleep at night. I can't stay awake all day. I need to take a nap. Okay, well, go ahead and take a nap, but try to make it less than 45 minutes and try to nap before 3 p.m. Okay, and then slowly reduce your nap time and put the time that you take away from your nap to the time that you go to bed at night. You know, go to bed earlier, 10 minutes or what that might be. Exercise is really important for a healthy sleep cycle, but the time that we exercise is very important. They suggest not exercising or strenuously exercising 3 hours before you want to go to bed. So all of this is important. When you think about these things, you really want to decide when you want to go to sleep. And I always ask my patients that, well, what time do you want to go to sleep? Because not everybody has a 9-to-5 job, and everybody's at a different place at a different time. And by meeting them where they're at, I ask them, well, what time do you want to go to sleep? So that will help kind of dictate what time you do these things. So if you want to go to sleep at 10, you really want to not exercise after 7, that type of thing. Other things that you can do during the day, getting back to what time do you want to go to sleep? Let's say you want to go to sleep at 10. You really want to avoid caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, anything stimulating 4 to 6 hours before that time. So it would be 4 to 6 p.m. You want to make sure you set up your sleep environment in a way that's conducive to sleep. They recommend cool, quiet, dark, kind of like a cave. Use blankets, comfortable blankets to keep you warm. If not everybody is able to control their environments, some people have roommates, they do lots of different things. So earplugs, eye masks, and white noise machines can be helpful. So those are the things we can do during the day to kind of prepare for night. Now we're going to go into the night things that we can do. So back to picking that time you want to go to sleep. 90 minutes before that, you really want to start thinking about what you're going to do to help yourself. It's about 90 minutes before you want to go to sleep. Hot showers or hot baths are recommended because as your body cools, it has a relaxing effect and you start to feel sleepy. About 60 minutes before you want to go to sleep, you want to try to do things that are relaxing, drink herbal tea. The sleepy time teas are really good. Read, pray, meditate, anything that's relaxing. Okay. And this is a guide. Again, you only want to use your bed for sleep. You don't want to watch TV in bed. You don't want to read or work in bed. Bed should only be used for sleeping and sex only. If you get into bed and you're not able to sleep after 20 minutes, you want to get out. Don't stay there and toss and turn, because what that does is that associates bed with something very frustrating. So you really want to get out of bed after 20 minutes and then do something that is relaxing. You want to keep the lights dimmed. You don't want to expose yourself to bright light. Herbal tea, milk, anything with tryptophan or protein can be helpful. Once you start to feel sleepy, then go back to bed. And then, get into bed only when you're sleepy. Additional tips, and this goes back to the therapy recommendation that was before, is to set aside time to worry once a day. In the morning, the evening, journally speaking. Your worries aloud, sometimes talking out loud, like on your drive home, talking out loud your worries, that sometimes is helpful. Or if you have a really, really good friend that you can call every day to vent your worries to, you can do that, and of course prayer. Another tip is to turn your clock around. If you're one of those people who wakes up in the middle of the night a lot, don't look at the time. You need to get up, use the bathroom, get back into bed. Don't look at the time, because that stimulates the brain and it causes frustration. Additional tips, diaphragmatic breathing can be very helpful for relaxing when you're trying to fall asleep, or if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're having a hard time falling asleep. And this includes inhaling deeply through the nose, really getting that diaphragm to come up, and then exhaling very slowly through the mouth. Okay. Some people like to repeat a mantra or something that helps them with their inhale and their exhale. So you can inhale peace, exhale stress, inhale calm, exhale worry. And you can kind of think that through as your body relaxes. The other tip you can try is progressive relaxation. I like to start from my toes and work my way up. But what it essentially is just tightening those muscles and then releasing them with your exhale. So you can tighten your feet, tighten your toes really tight, and then just let it go. And then your calves, and then your thighs, and then your glutes, and just work your way up. Okay, that will help relax your body, any tension that you might be holding. Okay. Resources. So these are some credible resources that you might find helpful, either if you want to find a clinician or a medical doctor who specializes in sleep medicine. The one that I found most helpful, well, most interesting, most exciting, most forward and hip is the One Mind Cyber Guide, and that's at the bottom. And as you know, things are moving more towards AI, artificial intelligence, and using apps and, our phones to help us through things. I'm not sure, I'm going to click on this and I hope you can see it, but it's a really neat guide. It's a website that is in connection with the Association of Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies. And what it is, hopefully you can see it. It's a very, very good resource if you want to use your phone or apps to manage anything. So I'm going to go here to find mental health apps. And I'm going to go to sleep because that's what we're talking about today. Oops. Oop. I'll go to sleep. I'm going to click on that. And then you can kind of
on the main screen, Melanie, so that it didn't go anywhere for us.
Oh, it didn't?
Mm-mm.
You are.
I'm the only one. Did you all go online or are you still on the resources page?
I'm still on the resources page as well.
Still there.
Let's see. Okay. Well, I won't waste your time, but you can click on it. And when you're asking me questions, I'll try to maneuver the techie part of it. Essentially, these are apps reviewed by professionals. And you can choose whichever thing you want to work on: depression, sleep, chronic pain, anything. And then you can sort the apps out so they can be rated by credibility, user experience, transparency, and app name. And I choose credibility because I want to know that whatever app I'm recommending, whatever app I'm using is credible, right? You want to, if you're going to spend money for something or spend time on something, you want to know that it works. So, and what it'll do is it'll list different apps that have been reviewed by behavioral health professionals, okay? So that's a really good resource. And I'll try to figure out the techie part while you're asking me questions. Okay. And there we go. And this little cartoon says, insomnia is very common. Try not to lose sleep over it. Does that, oh, and anybody have questions?
Are you done with the screen?
Yes, this is the only thing that I had here was I wanted to say thank you.
Well,
And rest well, little sheep. Even though that's a lamb, the topic was sheep.
Well, they're the same breed, right?
Yeah.
If you end your screen share, then we can all see each other better, maybe.
Okay.
There we go.
Did that work?
Yep.
Yes, thank you so much.
Any questions, concerns?
I'm sure our group has quite a bit. Thank you, Melanie. That was a really clear and really interesting presentation, the visuals and the data. I'm sure everyone learned something a little bit new. And thank you for those resources. Having a source that can vet and provide useful links to apps that work is extremely helpful. So yeah, let's open it up to questions. I'm sure people have lots of things they would like to ask you.
Melanie, is there a way that you could put the link for that last one in the chat so that we would be able to have access to it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You can just Google it. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Look it up now.
I took a screen snip of her last slide that has all those URLs on it. So I'll type them out and circulate them.
You guys are all so clever.
Yeah, they're not live, but I can see them. I discovered that I am a chronic insomniac that's doing 9 out of 10 things wrong. But my question is, if anybody else thinks they're as bad or not quite as bad as I am, the biggest sensation I have, I can't get back to sleep, but before I wake up, my brain is going 100 miles an hour and I have cognitive thoughts. And when I wake up, I understand those cognitive thoughts. I've got them and I can't get back to sleep. So there's a lot of stress and worry involved in that. But it blows me away that my brain is crunching numbers or thinking logically in its sleep, and that wakes me up.
Is it right before it's time to get up for the day, or intermittently through the night?
If I go to bed at 8 or 9, it can be midnight or 1. And then I've been reading in bed. I'll read for an hour and then my sleep monitor tells me I'm sleeping. But I also get out of bed and sit on the sofa and recline. And a lot of times I'll go back to sleep there. But that sensation of my brain waking me up is with cognitive thoughts, just is something I can't get away from.
And how long has that been happening? Is it new?
Last couple of years.
Last couple of years.
But then I average about, anywhere between 5 and 12 hours of sleep. But that's what hits me. In the morning, I'll sit down, and the next thing I know, I've been sitting and I've got 2.5 hours of sleep done.
Joys of retirement, huh, Fred?
Well, the afflictions of it too. But when I was working, I had that sensation, and I'd wake up in front of my computer monitor in my office. I'd be sleeping at my computer monitor. So this is it's been with me a while.
Yeah. Have you talked to your doctor about it?
I have. I'm getting a sleep study. And he says he wants another appointment so he can talk to me about it. And I said, we've already talked about it. It's time for the sleep study.
That's a good move. That's a good move.
Yeah.
The sleep study for sure. That's common. Folks who have, sleep apnea generally do wake frequently through the night. And I'm sure you've read about it because
I have friends that have been on CPAPs, and I've got a night guard that I've broken. But I don't know that I have. When I get 8 hours of sleep in, I feel great.
Maybe cognitive behavioral therapy might be effective.
Yeah, could be. I breathe deeply. I wear earplugs.
Yeah.
Just started doing that. That makes a big difference.
Any other questions?
I've seen mouths moving, but no sound, so.
I think Susan has a question.
I have a
Susan?
question. So the restless leg syndrome is not a form of insomnia. That's something else, right?
Yes, it's more of the restless leg syndrome is more of a musculoskeletal neurological medical condition, or it can be caused by certain medications. So generally, restless leg syndromes can cause insomnia. So if you have restless legs, you have trouble falling asleep and sometimes staying asleep. So once the restless legs is treated, then usually people sleep better.
Okay. So, but is a common behavioral, well, a common thing is that people do toss and turn when they're experiencing insomnia. And that's to get comfortable, or because one can't get comfortable. Do people talk about that in different ways, or?
Right, just tossing and turning all night, unable to go to sleep, and then the bed gets associated with negative what do you call it? Negative experiences.
Yeah.
So then it continues to build and build, and then people actually get anxiety before they go to bed because they associate it with not being able to sleep. So some of the therapies that the CBTI therapies that they can do can help people, overcome those things. There's one therapy that they do, which is called sleep restriction, which sounds kind of brutal, but it's used for people who have trouble falling asleep when they're tossing and turning. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
So Melanie, I have an interesting experience that's been with me most of my life. And now one of my sons seems to have it too. And that is basically going to bed and having no memory of falling asleep, because the moment your head hits the pillow, you're asleep, even sometimes before you've finished talking. This has been something that's been most of my life, and now one of my twin sons will experience the same thing. He'll be mid-sentence in bed saying goodnight to us, and then we don't hear the rest. He kind of trails off, and then he's already asleep. and that's been my experience a good part of my life.
I wonder if that would be more characterized under a hypersomnia.
Okay.
Like there are a lot of different ones, but the most common hypersomnia is narcolepsy, but that's during the day.
Right.
But for them, it might just be shifted of some type of hypersomnia. Yeah.
Is that helped by behavioral theory, cognitive behavior theory, or is that a whole different?
The
Yeah.
hypersomnia? That's a good question. Usually, some types of medications are used for that. I can check on that for you. I don't have very many narcolepsy patients that I know of. I mean, people usually like to sleep. I usually only see them when they're not sleeping, but that's a good question.
Yeah, I've just gotten used throughout my life to making sure that when I'm
And
ready to
sometimes-
sleep, I go to sleep and know that once I'm in the bed, I'm out.
And sometimes we refer out to neuro for narcolepsy and hypersomnias.
So you often hear of people as they get older that say they sleep less and less and less, and yet the new studies now are showing we all still need 7 hours of sleep. Is there a lot of people that I know do experience being able to sleep less and less? Is that just because there's a disorder or something going on, or is that their body saying you need less sleep? Sounds like that wouldn't be it if you need 7 hours of sleep. So,
Right. As far as the sleep cycle goes, we do spend less time in the deep REM sleep. So we're more easily aroused. We wake up more easily. And it might just be harder to go back to sleep. So learning techniques to get ourselves back to sleep, even though it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and you think, well, I'll just stay up. So it didn't really say what was recommended for that, because a lot of the medications, the sedative hypnotics, aren't recommended because of increased risk for falls, and they can affect memory.
yeah.
So more natural things are often suggested, such as melatonin, magnesium. A combination of magnesium with zinc and melatonin has sometimes been effective. And just that cognitive behavioral therapy to try to help train yourself to go back to sleep, even if it's early in the morning, or not looking at the clock, those types of things. So is it where people are alert and they're just...
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I don't have that problem. I get up a lot, but I don't have trouble falling back to sleep after I get up. So,
and it can be a lot of other factors too, like, are they napping during the day? Are they active during the day? Are they exposed to light? Are they avoiding caffeine in the evenings? All those other things add up. And it's not just one thing. It's multifactorial. So it's not just that people are aging. There's a lot of other things involved. They might not be as active during the day. I know my parents aren't as active as they used to be, 10, 15 years ago. So there's that as well.
Cinda, you had Yeah.
Well, as one of those people who, if I wake up at 3 o'clock, that's fine. If I wake up at 4 o'clock, and I know you're not supposed to look at the clock, but my mind just knows. And it says, okay, it's 4 o'clock. You can't go back to sleep. You might as well get up. And it's even when it's dark and cold and I have absolutely no reason to have to get up, like if I have an appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning or something, I'm going to, I expect to maybe wake up early and say, you need to get ready. But it's just something that I have had for many years, not just being 70. So it's sometimes I have this certain voices that I like to listen to. It's a British show that, those British, they have these really low, calm voices, and sometimes that will work. But it would be really nice to be able to wake up at 4, go to the bathroom, go back to bed for 2 more hours. It would really be nice. So if you have any suggestions or things to look at.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to your provider, your doctor about it?
Yeah, and there's not a lot of medications I can take. So, because I have a sister who takes certain things, but I can't take those. It's just something that we have night terrors. My son had night terrors when he was a baby, and he still doesn't sleep well. There's just something, we don't sleep well. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. It's almost like your internal clock is into that cycle. What kinds of things have you tried?
Just trying to make sure that I have everything in order for the next day, so that there's nothing to say, oh, well, I have to get this done or stuff. So anyway, but I just wanted to let you know that there are people who do have that.
Yeah, it's debilitating. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Yeah. And those apps might be helpful, or meeting with a therapist, just learning ways to retrain your brain and your body to do things differently. It's not a one solution for everybody. No. Everybody's so different, and there's so many variables and so many different health conditions and external factors, environmental factors. It's not just one thing. There's a lot of different things. So sometimes meeting with, a mental health provider or a therapist, they can kind of help asking you questions specific for medical, psychiatric, environmental, to kind of put the pieces together, because it's not just one thing.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just the opposite, Cinda. Since my renewal leave last summer, I've discovered that sleeping in the morning is really fun. And so,
lucky you.
I know. I mean, I'm one of these people who if I'm going to get my exercise done, I have to get up at 4 in order to go for the run for the rest of my day. But I've discovered that, man, I can turn off my alarm at 4 and I can go back to bed. And I feel great when I wake up. So I'm kind of the opposite way. I'm thinking I need to get back in the groove of
getting up
in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. I did get up at 4 o'clock or 4:30 to go to work when I worked, because we worked with the Army, and I needed to be there at 6 a.m. to, get orders from the Pentagon and places and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe my body just got used to it, and it just will not undo. Yeah. You spend 30 years in your career getting up at 4 a.m. Maybe you just can't ever not do it.
And another thing to think of too is it affecting your life in a negative way?
I take a nap at 11 because I'm retired.
I do a little bit of Candace. I wake up and realize what time it is and go, I'm retired. I don't have to do this. And I came from Central Time, But I was like Cinda, I had a job that I had to be, it was, I lived in another town from where I worked. And so I had to leave for work at a certain time to be able to get to work at a certain time. And then my day ran me. But I moved here from Central Time, and it took me quite a while to get used to Arizona time.
Interesting.
And I also have this dog that thinks that she's supposed to go in the backyard if she hears anything. So I have to get up and let her out at 3:30. But I also have to be a little bit awake so that I can let her back in about a half an hour, or else she'll get too cold. But I'm retired, and unless I've got a doctor's appointment or some other important thing, I can too turn over and grab a few more minutes.
And that's a good point. You know, is it affecting how you feel about yourself and your ability to get things done and do things? That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
You're welcome. I hope it was helpful. And thank you for allowing me to speak with you today or tonight. Get some good sleep.
Oh, you gave us a lot
tonight. We'll report.
We will report. You gave us a lot to think about, and very very good information for us to improve our health. And I love what you said about it being that third pillar of health. I think that's so true. And I think it's interesting. I sometimes move between two cultures, Japan and the US, and there are challenges that each culture has with how they do sleep. I mean, you see people coming home from work at 8 or 9 at night on the train, and they're sleeping, totally asleep on the train as they're coming home in Japan. And so we're not the only culture that tends to overwork and tends to, shorten our day at the expense of our sleep, and with, tremendous health consequences. So I think that's something that the church can do, has a role in talking about, much more integrated approaches to spiritual and physical health, and making sure that we remind ourselves of the importance of sleep. I think that's key, because we sometimes think, well, okay, it's an option, but it's not. It's really not an option. It needs to be, something we take seriously, and we just tell ourselves we've got to put this as a priority, to have a structure and a plan in place for getting the sleep we need and the quality of sleep that goes with that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you everyone for being here this evening. It's been wonderful to have the participation from the church in these conversations. We are very blessed to have Melanie as one of our speakers and to share her knowledge and her expertise with us so that we all can benefit. We have one more series or one more session in this series coming up on Sunday. Candace, would you like to mention a little bit about what's happening on Sunday?
Right. So it's called I'm Dead, Now What? And basically it's, what do you do to get all of your affairs in order and your family ready for that day when you will finally die? Because we've just discovered that there are a lot of times when someone will die unexpectedly, and it's horrendous for the surviving spouse or child or whatever. And so what do you need to do to get everything ready so that it's really easy for those who are going to have to take care of your affairs after you die? So we have Pima Council on Aging coming to do a presentation on that very thing. And then I'm going to be doing, after that, for anyone who wants to stay, the questions that I ask your family after you die, what they want for the funeral, and the blank expressions on their face. They have no idea what your favorite hymn was, or anyway, there's a packet that will kind of go through about some of the things that would be really helpful in the aftermath, including planning your actual funeral service. So now it's for the living. You're not here, but we don't want you haunting anyone for, whatever. You just might have some real opinions about what you want to have happen. And so we'll make those tools available. So that's after church on Sunday. So they'll start serving lunch at about 11:30. We want to give our Vail campus time to get up after their worship service. So the actual presentation will start about 12:15. So, and that's at our Houghton campus location. So I'm excited about that. They do a good job. Pima Council on Aging just has some wonderful resources. So if what they do isn't enough, we'll ask them what we should have next and we'll schedule that. So, so excited about that. And then that will be the end of our mental health series, because we will have Western Sunday and then Lent. So that's a whole different time, but wonderful as well.
So we're going to go from insomnia to the big sleep.
There you go. There you go. That's right. If you can't get sleep one way, we'll talk about the other one.
Yeah, and for many of us who are in that kind of sandwich generation with kids, younger kids, and also with aging parents, there will be childcare available too. So, yeah, Lorna's planning on being there. So.
Oh, wonderful. Great. All right.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Melanie, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice.
Sleep well.
Where are you running on Saturday, Melanie?
I'm not sure. I haven't ran because I just got my boot off last week
Oh,
because
okay.
my foot was broken.
Ow.
I
We haven't run
fell.
together. Must not have run together for a while. I am sorry.
It's okay. I'm all better. I'm just
Yay.
easing into it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just coming back from the half marathon, so I only have a 4-mile run on Saturday.
Nice.
Well, hopefully I'll see you on the roads.
I'll see you. Yeah, I'll be
Okay.
back soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you again, Melanie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.